Okay, so this homework was actually a little time consuming because of typing everything on the calculator. Also, the directions throughout say to to solve the entire triangle, okay? And that takes some doing. So, wow. Okay, so first, just decide what you want to solve for. So in other words, I'm going to go ahead and solve for that first because I know that a triangle adds up to 180 degrees. So that's going to be a 39.3, okay? I think the next thing I'm going to solve for is this, but it really doesn't matter. So for me, it's going to be this angle and these two, which is opposite and adjacent. So I would do it as this. And that means that x is going to be 12.2 over the tangent of 50.7. That's just cross multiplying and getting that all figured out. So let me type this in the good old calculator here. Okay, so I'm getting, this is 9.99 is what I'll call that. Now to get my third side, I'm actually not going to do SOHCAHTOA. I'm just going to do Pythagorean Theorem and type it all in that way. So 9.99 squared plus 12.2 squared, and that means that c squared is 248.64. So then let me take the square root of that, and I'm getting 15.77. Okay? Now I will do the same exact approach over here. Okay? This has got to be 65. Let me do the same thing with tangent. Tangent of 25 would be the opposite over the adjacent. And so x is actually, in this case, going to be multiplying these two. So 32 point, is that a 32? Yeah, 32.2 times the tangent of 25. Okay, so I'm getting for this bottom 15.02. And then I'm going to do Pythagorean Theorem again to find the hypotenuse. Now, if you did it a different way, but you decide, hey, I like this way, feel free to hit pause, and retype something in with me to see how that goes. That's going to be, that's not a fun number, but then I need to square root it. So the hypotenuse of this is 35.53. Alright, so those are the things that I'm getting for those numbers 1 and number 2. Now 3, 4, 5, and 6 are down here. Okay, so to begin with these, I'll start with number 3. I'm going to go ahead and find that third angle. So 180 minus 47 minus 77. So I'm getting 56 up here. And then I'll just break into my law of sines. Sine of 56 over 17 is equal to, what is it equal to? Do I have it? Oh, okay, good. Whatever you want to find first. I'm going to go for little c first, so I'll do sine of 77 over c. I will cross multiply, and then this is what I'm going to have to type in for c. So if I do that, I'm getting 17 sine 77 sine of 56. Okay, I am getting a 19.98. So over here, 19.98. Now please don't do Pythagorean Theorem to get that third side because this is not a right triangle. But I am going to use the same formula I just did above, and now instead of doing 77 in C, I'm going to do 47 in A. So when I cross multiply, A will be the same thing I typed in earlier, except it's a 47. So when I do that, is that a 4? Yeah. So I am getting 14.996. Okay, it's going to round to 15 over here. Okay, so that's what I'm getting for that triangle. Moving on over to number 4. I'm going to start, I can't fill in any angles because I only have one and I can't do the other side. So I'll just start immediately with sine of 98 over 28 equals, and then solve for whatever you want first. Let's pretend that we want that first. So sine of A over 20. You just got to go with what's opposite what and make that decision of what you want to solve for. So sine of A is going to be, is that a 28 or a 20? That's a 20. It's going to be 20 sine of 98 over 28. And then I have to type it in as a second sine of all of that stuff, just because that's the way it goes anytime you're looking for the angle, right? And when I type all of this in, I'm getting a 45, pretty much 45 degrees, so that makes that easy. So if that's 45, then I'm going to do 180 minus 45 minus 98. And that's going to give me a 37 over here. And now I can jump over and find this side. So I just need to make sure I use the 37 over, I guess that would be little c. And then I can use whatever I want. I typically always use the same one over and over again. So if I've already used that, I'll just use it again. And then I'll cross multiply so that c will be 28 sine of 37 over sine of 98, and then I'll type that in. So after we type that in, what am I getting here? I am getting sine of 98, 17.01. I mean, it's really close to a whole number, so I'll just go with 17. So that's what we're getting, and hopefully that is working out for you. So both of those were law of sines problems. Now, when you get down to these next two, even if you didn't remember which kinds of triangles to use which kinds of formulas on, if you tried to do a law of sines, you would have missing information. Like you would do sine of 118 over B equals sine of A over 13. You have two things unknown, and when that happens, that should trigger you to use the other formula, law of cosines. And this is an SAS triangle. So for the SAS triangle, we use that formula, a squared equals b squared minus c squared. Oh, sorry, plus, I mean, minus 2bc cosine A. Cool. So I'm using this formula, and even though the A, B, and C are there, I'm going to ignore them. Okay, I really am. I'm going to ignore that A, B, C, because what I care about, I'm erasing all kinds of stuff. What I care about is how should I use this formula with this situation. Well, the angle always goes in the back. So as soon as I put a 118 in right here, okay, that means that the thing out front will be the side across from it or opposite from it. So I'm just going to relabel that as little a for the sake of just doing this problem. So that means that I'll do an a squared or an x squared or whatever you want to call it, and then those can be my b and c. And this is what I'm typing in. Just in one big fail swoop, I'm typing in 8 squared plus 13 squared minus, I'm not even doing any mental math, 2 times 8 times 13 times the cosine of 118, because you know, you may do that wrong. And so I'm getting 330.65, and then I need to take the square root of that. And so my A would be 18.18. So hopefully you figured that out. This is one of the tougher ones to figure out, I'm not going to lie. Now that you have all three sides and you want to find one of the other angles, just decide which one. So let me try to find this one first, which means I'll be doing sine of whatever that is, I'll call it x, over 13 is equal to, now you know these two, the sine of 118 over 18.18. Okay, we'll cross multiply. So sine of x will end up being 13 sine of 118 over 18.18. And I'm going to type this in, but I'm going to have to type in a second sine before it because of this situation here. We can't separate these two. I'm looking for the angle. If you're looking for an angle, you're always typing in second something. So it's second sine of all of that mess right there. Yeah, second sine. So second sine of all of that. Sorry, it takes just a minute for me to type it in as well. So if you're waiting on me, I apologize. 18.18. Okay. I am getting 39.15. And then if you have those two angles, it becomes a subtract from 180. And I know that angle is going to be 22.85. So now I've got my entire triangle, no worries, okay? Now we come over to this one. It's a side, side, side. So if you look at your notes, that is definitely law of cosines. And the way that I've written it out is like this. And so if we use this formula, remember, you know, whatever angle you're going after, it just means that whatever angle's here, it needs to be that side across from it right here. So let's say I wanted to find this one first, okay? Let's say that's the one I wanted. Then I would need to have the 30 in the front because it's the one opposite it. And then the B and the C are just the other two angles. There we go. And then I'm typing in second cosine of all of that business right there. So let's see how that looks when I do second cosine. And then I type in 30 squared minus 17 squared minus 18 squared all over negative 2 times 17 times 18. Okay, I am getting 117.97. So right in here, that's what, I erased the wrong thing. No, come back. All right, 117.97. So that's what I'm getting here, 117.97. And now if I want to find either of these two, now that I have a relationship where somebody's across from somebody, I'm going to jump into my law of sines. I don't need to do law of cosines again. If you did law of cosines again, that's okay. But you don't have to because now you have an angle to work with. Let me go after B, angle B across from 17. So I'm going to cross multiply these and get that the sine of B is 17 times the sine of 117.97 over 30. Once again, I need to enter this as a second sine of all of that because I'm looking for an angle, okay? So second sine, and I'm going to have 17 sine of 117.97 divided by 30. Okay, I'm getting 30.04. So, yeah, 30.04. So you could just, I'm confident enough that that's, where is it? There it is. Okay, I'm confident enough that that is close enough to 30 that I think I will just call it 30. And which one were we finding again? Oh, we were up here. So it was 30. And so then I, you know what? I'm not going to. I'll go 0 for since that had a 0.97. And so then I'll subtract everybody from 30.04. I'll subtract everybody from 117.97. Now, sometimes things go weird with law of cosines. Meaning this, if you did not get the same angles that I got, but you know you felt like you did it right, you might have tried to find one of the smaller angles first, and sometimes that jacks with this situation over here. So my recommendation is on an SSS, and you can actually go back to your notes for this if you want to write this, and this is my only side note. On an SSS, find the largest angle first. Meaning you want to go for the one that's across from the largest side first. Across from largest side. And this is not a you must do this, it's just a really nice, if you do this, then things won't get weird for you and potentially mess up. So this is just a strong recommendation to do it in that order, and I've never messed one up when doing it in that order. All right, Coolio, hopefully it went well. It's a lot of information, a lot of formulas, and a lot of button punching. So we can talk in tutorials for clarification.